Today we're going to be doing a quick video. I'm just going to teach you how to make a stock by yourself. Stocks are just a great way to buff up your cooking. It adds a lot of extra flavor. It usually always tastes better than store-bought, and it's way cheaper to do it. And so as you can see right here, what I have a selection of is the usual mirepoix, and I'm going to start with a basic vegetable stock. And you could just have the mirepoix and water, just the onion, celery, and carrots, and that would just be a fine basic thing. But what I'm going to add is a sprig of thyme, 2 bay leaves, some whole garlic, black peppercorns, some parsley with the stems, and then if you have any other vegetables leftovers that you've just saved in the bag in the freezer or something, like I have some cut up broccoli stems that I'm going to add. What this is going to be, it's going to be something called a white stock. And there's 2 basic types of stocks. There's white and then there's brown. And the difference between the two is that white, you don't caramelize any of the vegetables before. I will also show you today brown stock, but that'll come later. I have it cooking in the oven now just to give it some caramelization. So I've added some cold water just to cover all the vegetables. I'm just going to give it a quick stir, and what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to bring it up to a boil really quickly and then reduce it down to a simmer. I don't really want it to boil too long, like at all. It's mainly more for like the darker stocks with chicken or meat because there's fat, and if you let it boil, the bubbles will act as an emulsifier, and that'll mix the fat with the water and you'll get a really cloudy stock. And what you want is a clear stock. So it's starting to boil just a little bit, and you can see this foam has risen to the top. And you want to just skim that off. And how you do that is you take the bottom of your ladle, just swirl it around, and that'll move all the foam to the outside. And then you can just go around and collect it. So earlier in the video I mentioned there were 2 basic types of stock. You have your brown and your white. The brown, as you can see, is by throwing everything in the oven and caramelizing it. These are just beef bones. I've thrown them in the oven at 425 just until they were brown enough. And then I have some mirepoix over here that I did as well to give it some caramelization. And as you can see, there are some bits stuck to the bottom of this tray, the little brown bits. And there's actually a term for that. It's called fond. And if I had done this in something that could handle the stovetop, what you could do is take some red wine, maybe, throw it into that, and give it a quick stir, and reduce it down, and you'd get a ton of flavor. So I've let my soup, or my stock, simmer for about 2 hours now. You could do it for about an hour to 10 hours depending on how much you want. I've separated the meat out and let that already strain into a bowl. But now I'm going to pour the rest of it through a wire mesh strainer. And then, since I just have a small strainer, I have a colander behind it to catch anything that drops in. So I poured it from the bowl into just a measuring cup once it cooled down. And now what I'll do is I'll put it in the refrigerator, and the fat that was left over on top will solidify, and it'll be just real easy to skim it off. Or if I wanted to save this for a while, I could put it in the freezer in a gallon Ziploc bag or a mason jar, and it'll last for months.